Congratulations, Space Force.
I am the real Hulk.
Oh yeah, that's how it always starts. You know, you read what others had done, and you took the next step. You didn't earn the knowledge for yourselves, so you don't take any responsibility for it.
I am your fist. It's a trap.
Hello, what have we here?
That is one big pile of shit.
China. I love China.
That is one big pile of shit.
Japan. Mexico. I love China. And it only makes common sense.
What? That's not what I want.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another Night Talk Live. Yes.
Oh, no, I think I'm bigger than you.
Yes, you could be bigger than me.
Brother.
Oh yes, brother.
Oh, no.
Oh yes.
Don't do it.
Hulk, are you in the cave with me?
Okay.
I mean, are you in the cave with me?
Oh, yes, I do.
No, just are you in the cave with me?
Yeah.
Okay. We're in the Night Talk Live Cave.
You're right.
All right. Enough goofing around. Let me turn down the Night Talk music. There we go. Turn that down. All right.
I hate to intrude.
Oh, you're not intruding. I'm just doing a show. Just me. You can stick around and hang out with me for the next hour or so while I maybe take some phone calls, talk about some stories. I got some stories about real-life vampires, shapeshifters, some Russian Space Force news.
Space Force.
I think maybe Space Force needs some echo on it. Let's see what happens with this.
Space Force.
Yeah, it works out pretty well. We also have some technology news with IBM's new AI and a Nazi toy that has been pulled off the shelves. All that more coming up on Night Talk Live. Joe and I, we had a good time on Saturday doing a show in Command Center Alpha 1. He was the first person that I've had in the new Command Center Alpha 1.3. And it was nice. Not only was it nice to have a guest in here finally to do the show with me, it was also nice to see him in person. I've had a chance to reflect on it. It was just, Joe's like a genuinely good guy. And, you know, I talk with him every week for probably about 3 hours. We dedicate 3 hours each week to talk to each other about whatever's going on in our life, current events, and all the wacky stuff. And it's nice to actually see the person who you talk with and who you're friends with them. But to see them in person, and you can see their facial expressions a little bit more, and it just kind of like solidified our friendship, I believe. I think we're closer friends now that we've seen each other again for the first time in 15 years than before. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's how, at least how I feel. So I think we'll definitely be able to do another 300 shows together. Yeah.
What?
Oh, yeah. 300 shows. It's very possible. It's very possible to happen.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So, first up on the docket, we have some vampire news. Well, we don't talk about vampires too much on the Our Big Dumb Mouse show. Occasionally we'll talk about some cryptids or some weird Mothman-like creatures. Vampires don't often come up. Well, I'll even touch on Dogman or Werewolf, but vampires don't really come up too much. But there is a vampire culture out there. And I remember when I was growing up back in the 90s, back in my day, the Interview with a Vampire movie came out. The Anne Rice books were very popular, and that's it spawned kind of like a vampire subculture. People dressing like vampires, and that kind of linked to the goth industrial culture. And I'd be out at local shows, and I'd see people with like fake vampire teeth in, and it was a little weird. I don't know why you'd want to be slam dancing in a mosh pit and have to worry about your fake vampire teeth. It seems like a big headache. Think of the dental bill. My Lord. All right, vampires. They're all around us. I don't know if that's true, but let's be sensational. Your mother's a vampire. How about that? She's going to suck your blood. Pray to God she doesn't suck anything else. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
All right. Let's get this vampire story up and running. This comes from the Sun, UK. Inside the bizarre world of the real-life vampire king and queen, who have fangs, drink blood, and are polyamorous, but hate Twilight. That's what they say. They hate Twilight. So here we go. Is this just a picture show? Are they going to do a rundown? Or do I have to read? Please, God, don't make me read. Just
to me, when I had this kind of awakening, I ran off with it like an absolute ass. And I was just so empowered by it. I didn't care what anybody said. It was, you, I'm a vampire, and that was it.
This is a guy talking about being a vampire. They're showing little images of him. And
Vampire Court of Austin is essentially a town hall for all of Austin's awakened vampires, otherkin, and human supporters or black swans that assist us with our everyday life and what we do with the court as well. It's essentially a safe haven for anyone who applies and wants to be part of our kind of family style group to learn from each other.
Married couple Logan and Dallas South founded the Vampire Court almost 2 years ago.
I've been married now for almost 2 years. From the moment that we got together, we decided to have an open relationship. And then shortly after that, we decided to have a polyamorous relationship, which meant that not only could we play with other partners, but we could also love other people.
What does this have to do with vampire culture? This sounds like they're just having sex to have sex, under the guise of being vampires.
And finding my wife, I found my other half. In finding Ilona, I found that soulmate that we all search for all through our lives.
Okay,
that
good.
Person who exists
good for you. Happy for you.
That vibrates on a similar energy frequency.
Okay. Where does the vampirism come in? And this is in Austin, Texas. Holy shit, Joe! Watch out. These people. Can we get him on the show, Joe? Joe, I don't know if you're listening or watching. I'll send you this article later. But these vampires, are in Austin, Texas. I'd love to interview them. When do we talk about vampirism? They believe that they will become... So I'm trying to read the subtitles here of this video. They believe that they will become ill if they spend too long in the sun or don't feed. I get ill if I spend too much time in the sun. I got lupus, motherfucker. I'm allergic to the sun. It hurts me. I'm white. I'm Irish. Most people, I believe, will get sick if you spend too much time in the sun. At least maybe most white folks. Sun poisoning. All right, let's move on.
A lot of vampires experience sun sensitivity.
Yes.
And the theory with that is that the sun is such an intense form of energy, and as vampires, we are very sensitive to energy because we have to feed from it. If you stop feeding for an extended period of time, you're probably going to get sick. I actually know someone who had a heart condition, and she stopped feeding for an extended period of time, and they told her she was going to die. So our donors are human. As far as how we do it, the most utilized court method that we promote is a lancet, which is an instrument that is utilized for people who are diabetic. All it does is prick the finger a few times, and we feed that way.
You don't want to go cutting into people with knives or anything, and I've heard horror stories of people doing that kind of thing, and I think it's very important that we educate people on how to do that very safely. There's no reason to go cutting and slicing when you could just have a tiny little pinprick on a fingertip.
I'm kind of curious how they got into this. Is it because of Anne Rice and vampire culture? Was his father a vampire? Was he born into this? Was he son of vampire? Son of Dracula? I'd like to know. Or was it part of the music culture? Because he's kind of dressed up like a level 12 ranger. from D&D. He's got that brim. He's a cross between Steve Irwin and a D&D ranger. That's what he's dressed as. Not typical vampire garb. It's more like a bard. There are many misconceptions about the
biggest
vampires.
Misconceptions is that it's just a lifestyle, and it's just something that we decided one day, woke up and said, hey, I'm going to put on some black and some fangs to be a vampire. The only immortality that we believe in is what you leave behind.
Here within the next year.
She didn't really clear up any misconceptions. Like, so how did you get into this culture?
We are hoping to actually see a unified vampire community across at least the U.S., if not.
Oh, this guy's bringing the 7 kingdoms of vampirism together.
Borders. My day is probably just like anybody else's, except for sometimes I might be having a little more fun than that.
What's he do for his day job? Is he a dentist? Maybe? Perhaps even some sort of like technician when it comes to lamps or something like that. I don't know.
I do not fully understand.
I'd like to know more about this. Every month, the Vampire Court of Austin meets at their private members club, a fetish venue about 15 minutes from Central Austin, where they hold an official court meeting before relaxing with a drink or a little BDSM on their sex floor. They have a whole floor dedicated to sex? My God, most people just have like one room or a bed. They have a whole floor. Is it linoleum? Married couple Logan and Daly South founded the court around 6 years ago to provide a safe haven for all the city's awakened vampires and other kin, which includes werewolves, fairies, and people who identify with their animal spirits. Hey, I like that. That sounds great in practice. I like it. I just want to know how people become vampire or find that side of themselves. They advise members, who include security guards, property managers, ex-military, and actors, on how to drink blood safely and shield themselves from psychic attacks. Kind of on board. These psychic attacks are launched by so-called energy vampires who feed off of people's positive energy in order to boost their own. But they're like a blood vampire. And, Alex Jones talks about psychic vampires. They're ruling elite, the Illuminati, who create devastating world events, death and chaos, turmoil, sadness, in order for these energy vampires to feed off of that negative energy. So I'm kind of on board with some of this stuff and his goals, but I don't know about the whole putting the teeth in kind of thing. That's just not me. I don't know if I like that. And then I couldn't go into the office wearing vampire teeth. I think my office has a strict no vampire policy. They're very bigoted. They really are. 614-388-9109. Is your father a vampire? Do you have an uncle, perhaps, that is a vampire? Call in. Let me know. It is said you can tell if you're suffering an attack, a psychic attack, by the way you feel when you're around them. Sometimes a sudden nausea or stomach ache or stabbing pains around the back, chest, and shoulders will occur. But these aren't just a group of role players. The members of the court truly believe that if they do not feed, or if they spend too long in the sun, they will become ill or even die. As I've talked about on many of the past shows as of late, that I think that the belief system is very powerful. So if they believe this, they might wind up causing some kind of reaction within themselves. Like, I didn't get enough blood. I'm in the sun too long. I believe this is going to harm me, so maybe, therefore, it will. So they might be really inventing, by using their mind, manifesting that on their own. And Austin vampires are not alone. One census estimated there were 50,000 vampires in the U.S. at last count. I don't know if they have that in the U.S. Census form. I know they track ethnicity, I think, and household couples. I don't know if they ask you, does your household include a vampire, werewolf, or a fairy? I don't know if that's. I don't think the U.S. Census system is that forward thinking at this point, but maybe they'll get to it. There are 3 main types of vampire. Queen Daly explains, identified by their main source of feeding, either blood, sex, or energy. Daily 30 told Sun Online, you got vampires who feed from blood, the sanguine vampires. You got vampires that feed directly from energy, psychic vampires. And you got vampires who feed sexually. not just from sex acts, but from the energy of arousal. You also got vampires who feed from all three. Well, geez, they're just pigs, aren't they, at that point? They're gluttons at that point. Okay. But this is a fairly lengthy article about vampires. Is there anything like super controversial about this? This does kind of just seem like a club, and they don't really seem to be doing anybody harm as long as the participants who are giving the blood do so of their own volition. Let's get down to some nitty-gritty. From the moment that we got together, we decided to have an open relationship. And then shortly after, we decided to have a polyamorous relationship, which meant that not only could we play with other partners, we could also love other people, and that would be perfectly fine. Okay, so they're kind of like a half vampire, half hippies from the 60s kind of thing. Okay. I can see that. It makes it probably easy. Don't have to worry about sharing fangs at that point. Maybe you share fangs. They do. Fang condoms. What are the last two paragraphs on this? Because I'm kind of curious about how this all winds up. Sun Online was granted exclusive access to June's meeting, where a group of around 20 to 30 vampires, many wearing specially made fangs and brightly colored contact lenses, gathered to greet the king and queen. Well, they just called themselves king and queen. There was no voting. They just kind of like preordained some kind of royal bloodline. Ha ha ha. Once inside the group, took part in an energy shielding workshop where they learned how to protect themselves from psychic attacks. And then there's various books out there on how to do this. You can visualize a white light around yourself to guard against psychic attacks, or if you think you're going to go into a situation that might be a little bit more mentally stressful and emotionally charged, you can slow down for a second, sit down, meditate a little bit, and picture a white light around yourself, and have that dispel all the negative energy around you. So it's not that different from what they're doing here versus what I've read in other books. We do a lot of community outreach for the Austin community, Daly explains. A lot of that is to not only help the community, but it also removes the negative stigma that often surrounds vampire organizations. If they see a bunch of vampires out helping with children's hospital blood drives, things like that, then it gives people a more open mind as to this is not going to work, people. It doesn't make sense to me. They're going to be stealing blood, taking it back to their vampire den, their sex floor, doing God knows what.
Okay.
Yeah. How does this... This is a very lengthy article. It's almost 8 inches long. All right. So just to wind this up, they go on to say, I would say I detest Twilight on a cellular level, he said. I absolutely abhor it, and I think it is disgusting. It is a disgusting film that glorifies an abusive stalker and does not in any way attribute itself to anything the vampires are, either in reality or in folklore or legend. It's kind of a farcical version of vampires that I don't appreciate, he says. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, there is a brief story of some real-life vampires there, that they're in Austin, Texas. I don't know if they're open to new members, but this is a perfect opportunity for Joe to do a deep cover mission, I believe. I think I'd like to see him do that. And we could make him a costume. I'd like to have him wear a cape, possibly elf shoes, and we can give him like Spock ears, and we'll send him in there. Get him in this court, and then he could be the court gesture for the king and queen vampire. I think that'd be quite nice. If all else, it would just be absolutely be hilarious to the show. All right, let's move on a little bit. 614-388-9109. While we're on the topic of vampires and whatnot, I do have something that goes along with shapeshifters and shapeshifting. And I might actually have a personal story with this too. But this, I'm not sure if I played this on the air, but this is from the Howard Stern show, where he was interviewing Billy Corgan of the Smashing Pumpkins. And I don't know if anybody follows Billy Corgan's career as of late. He's a very interesting dude. I believe he's just a absolutely creative songwriter. He's written a lot of songs that I loved growing up, and I think he's a great guitar player, a great songwriter. And he's into some of the conspiracy paranormal stuff as well. He's been on the Alex Jones show. He's been pretty open about his belief that there's more going on than meets the eye. He questions a lot of official events, and he does touch on the paranormal side, believing that there are ghosts, there's an afterlife, and some of those entities can creep into our life every now and again. And when he was on the Stern show, he actually told this story to Howard Stern. This might get us flagged for content strikes, so make sure, people, that if you want the audio-only version of the show, subscribe to the Patreon, $3 a month, and you get the high bitrate version of the show, MP3 only. Listen to it on the go. And here we go. Billy Corgan on Stern.
The Howard Stern Show.
What happened? Give me a for instance. I want to know.
I'm turning red. I'm so embarrassed.
No, don't be embarrassed. Come on, share. Why not? We have to discuss these things.
Let's just say I was with somebody once and I saw a transformation that I can't explain.
The person transformed into something other than human.
Yes, I saw it.
Were you on drugs?
I was not. I was totally sober.
Wow.
You were talking with. I'm asking you some questions. If you were talking to someone,
yes,
and you're having a conversation like we are now, this close, and the person suddenly, not in a hallucination, they said to you, "Look, something's going to happen here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to morph into something else," and you're like, well, "This is ridiculous."
That's not how it happened.
Give me a please. I want to see this.
Imagine you're doing something and suddenly you turn around and there's somebody else standing there.
A different human.
Sorta. It's hard to explain without going to detail. I'd rather not go into details.
But did you say to the person, what'd you just do here? That's
yes,
not you.
And they acknowledged it.
And what did they say they were? From another planet?
They wouldn't explain.
Why not?
Again, without telling the story, it's a really messed up story.
A famous person?
No.
Good. Why is he not famous? By the way,
why is that good?
Why don't you put him on wrestling?
Believe it or not, they're actually a voting member of the Rock and Roll Academy.
Is that true?
No, I'm just.
It's Jan Wenner, isn't it?
But when you say they transformed into someone else or something
Billy,
else,
I've had that happen.
I'm being vague on purpose.
I was with a woman once. She took her makeup off. I didn't know who the fuck she was. I'm telling you, she totally tricked me. You talk about something like that, that's a different story. Wow. I mean,
it's up there with one of the most intense things I've ever been through.
The Howard Stern Show.
I believe him. I think there's some weird shit out there, and I think there are weird creatures that exist. Look, I believe in aliens. I believe in UFOs, and I believe that there are weird creatures out there. Whether or not it was an actual shapeshifter, that's what he believed he saw. Somebody or something taking the form of a human, and he just kind of briefly saw it. I don't know. The human mind works in weird ways, especially with the eyes. We only see a certain spectrum of light. God knows what is living in the other spectrums. We can't have access to that through our eyes. We can do it through, infrared, thermographic FLIR, UV. Who knows? But that's what he saw. And I don't think he expanded on everything. Before he actually talked about that, he was actually referencing being at that Hollywood party and how he ran into a person who was a medium, and that the medium actually kind of talked with him about this friend he had when he was growing up who died, and they'd never had contact previously, Billy Corgan and this medium, and referenced that, and that kind of solidified some stuff for him. And then he had that other experience at the party. So weird, wild stuff, definitely. And I can pull up this other clip that I have of Billy Corgan on the Joe Rogan Experience. Maybe I haven't watched this. I'm going to go in blind here. I'm just kind of flying by the seat of my pants here, people. and just kind of pulling things out of the air as they come to me. And I'll bring this up on screen right now, and we can all watch it together. And here we go. This is Billy Corgan on
I gotta
Joe
ask
Rogan.
you this one thing for
Sure.
It's because I read this and I was like, "What?"
Here we go.
You saw someone shapeshift?
Oh God.
Is it? Is that
What's so
real?
funny?
Or were you fucking with people?
No, it's true.
Really?
Yeah, it's true.
Because when you told me that you enjoy Kaufman-like moments, I was like,
Ding dong.
Hey, Mr. Steven Bradford, how are you?
I'm good, Michael. I'm calling in. Here I am.
Hey, there you are, buddy.
Now,
Yeah, you're talking about Billy Corgan, man.
Yeah, Billy Corgan and his. I don't even know if you heard the clip I played of him seeing a shapeshifter in person.
I heard him on. I heard him on Joe Rogan talking about it. I think I don't know if it was. I'm pretty sure it was that.
Yeah,
but I think he went into more detail there.
Yeah,
because basically, did you listen to it?
I'm just getting ready to play it right now. I just pulled up the clip.
Oh, okay. I don't know. You can go ahead and play it if you want to. I was going to say I didn't know if it was the one that because he was being vague about it, but I'm pretty sure it was a sexual experience he was having.
Oh,
and that endured the shape shifting.
So during the sexual, I can play it. Do you want to hang on the phone while I play this real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
No, it's true. I would tell you off grid, but I won't say it publicly.
Really?
The only way I'd say it publicly is if I write it. And I've been writing this book for years, and it's in the book.
Really?
So I'd tell you off grid, but I can't. Look, I know Alex Jones sat in this seat, you know, right? I know you've been on InfoWars. I've been on, you know, there's
Have you been on InfoWars
Oh, yeah,
too?
I think 3 or 4 times, yeah.
What have you been on InfoWars for?
Mostly talking about free speech. Mm-hmm. I think that's one thing that is critical in alternative media, is to fight. Like, that's a frontline issue for me.
Yeah.
This demonetizing of people's videos and trying to censor message.
Where's I'm going to fast forward through this for the shape shifting.
That ability, I trust our democracy.
Okay, I'm going to fast forward a little bit. Let's get back.
Use Billy.
Yeah.
That's why we disagree with that initial
Okay,
thought.
Okay, let's get back. Maybe
I got to use an example. If we generally agree that an idea is so abhorrent, why can that
agree with?
That's terrifying for me.
It is terrifying. You'll put it in a book.
Yeah.
So please tell people how they can see you, the name of your new album, where they can get it.
I have an album out solo.
Yeah, he's not going. He's not talking about it here. Not at least not in this clip.
Weird.
So yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah. Regardless, I'm sure it's the same. I'm sure it's the same thing, where he's just very vague about seeing a quote unquote shapeshifter. I mean, what do you think it is?
Well, I don't have too much detail about what he saw, but there are various accounts throughout folklore history of shapeshifters, whether it's a vampire or there's something called aswang, which is a form of shapeshifting. I'll bring it up on the screen here, but there's a Wikipedia article on this. And
I'm sure, yeah. I bet if you looked up an article just shape-shifting in folklore in general, you know, Irish cat, you know, yada yada. Everyone's got a shapeshifter. You got to think it's for a reason, right?
I would say so. So real quick, the aswang or the aswung, based on the Sanskrit language Hindu concept of the Ajra, is a shape-shifting monster in Filipino folklore, usually possessing a combination of the traits of either a vampire, a ghoul, a warlock, witch, or different species of werebeast. And even all of the above combined together, it is a subject of a wide variety of myths and stories. Spanish colonists noted that the aswang was the most feared among the mythical creatures in the Philippines, even in the 16th century. I'm under the impression, like a lot of ancient texts, while there might be some hyperbole to illustrate a greater narrative or story, that I think they come from a place of truth. Like the great flood from the Bible comes from a place of truth.
I think all that stuff comes from a place of truth, to be honest with you. I mean, truth becomes obscured. It's like a game of telephone, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's like there's this truth, like, you know, regardless of whether it was some dude on some type of psychedelics at the time that was saw something. It was like, oh shit, and then I saw this, and there's a 10-foot nacho monster out there, man, and he's fucking eating up the villagers.
Yeah, someone in the chat says there are no shapeshifters. Granted, they're not. If they are existing at this point, they're not walking around and making themselves known. That's for damn sure. There's no concrete proof. We have Billy Corgan's story. He's like the most high profile person that I heard come out and talk about it.
He's on that Tom DeLonge shit right now too.
I can believe
he's coming out and saying some weird shit. Like there's some weird shit going on right now. And so someone's saying that there's no such thing as
Space Force.
There's no such thing as shapeshifters. I subscribe to the pornography version of reality, where if I can think it, it's probably real in some way, shape, or form. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I am. I'm probably right there with you at this point in my life. I did a show last week where I had my the Akashic records read to me through. I went to a channel medium to have that done.
Mm-hmm.
And someone called up, like saying, "Hey," because I was talking about a memory I had when I was growing up, and it was a very traumatic memory. And the Akashic records reading said, "Hey, that was a past life, and you somehow got a memory of past life." And the guy called up saying, "Hey, isn't it just more likely or probable that it was just a spontaneous memory?" I forget the phrase he used. Just a misplaced memory, or you invented it in your head, or it was a dream. Isn't that more likely or plausible? And I don't know what's really plausible anymore. And how do you really calculate the probability of something like that? I don't think I was talking to a statistician on the phone. It was just some guy who lives in a binary
that's
world.
The problem is like people. That's the other thing too, where it's like as you say, I don't think I'm talking to a statistician. There's I always have the thing where it's like in my head, well, if he's a doctor, he's got a PhD, he must be smarter than me and be right. But that being true that being the truth might not be a thing. It's just a monkey just like me, but he's in a lab coat and I'm not. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
it's like humans are fallible and pretty stupid.
Yeah, everyone's pretty much. I mean, there's an average IQ for a reason. I mean, doctors are probably they're smarter. I would say they're better at certain areas with their memory and comprehension and reasoning ability, but they're not infallible. And there's a lot of there's a lot of things that are just weird. And
I mean, I think 90% of the things around are just weird, really. Yeah. If you think about it in general. And coming back to the Billy Corgan thing, it's like I would not say that he's wrong. I would not even try to disprove. Like he says it, I'm like, yeah, sure. You saw a shapeshifter. I believe you, I believe that you saw that.
Yeah. I will I prefer the spoken word of testimony as opposed to written word when it comes to this kind of stuff. I like to hear someone's conviction.
Either way.
Yeah.
Like, he says he's coming out with a book, him coming out with a book is probably going to be, a firsthand, basically a spoken word, just, narrate, just putting down in words. But the problem with the book thing is like when you got, other people revisionism is the problem when it comes to stuff like this. They're redefining things.
Real quick, I'm gonna try to address the chat here. Corvo from AZ says logic is. Or they're saying logic is not what this show is about. Or he says, someone says, why watch a show about these topics if everything I know? Logic doesn't exist here. Just curiosity. I do logic for a living. I write code for a living. I work with logic. I'm pretty good at writing Python. I have a career at it. But I wouldn't be successful if I wasn't creative and exploring things out and pushing that logic to do things that maybe other people who have a strong programming background would do, because I kind of think outside the box and I don't know what is or isn't possible with programming. So I'm more willing to try certain things that maybe hard lessons have been learned previously, but I'm willing to try them again.
I mean, it's the thinking of things, it's like things that haven't been thought of already.
Listen, guys,
it's some shit you have to do. It's the creative process.
I just don't like when someone says this doesn't exist. This is not how reality is. And
it doesn't exist yet.
And they're like, they call up and say, hey, this is not real, Mike. It's not real. How dare you talk about it or even consider the possibility that you've had a past life? I believe in reincarnation. There's been many.
You full on believe in reincarnation? Like that's just a belief that you're holding on to. And for the time being, I would never anything I believe in could easily be changed the next day.
Yeah,
because of revisionism and progress.
Yeah, I do believe in reincarnation. There's been so many, like you hear these stories about these little kids who are like 4 to 5 years old and they talk to their parents about some horrible adult stuff. Like, oh yeah, I would, like basically a past life that they're conveying at a very early age to their parents and family members, and that kind of gets washed away the older they get. They forget about it.
Yeah. Well, what if it was one of those crazy things? And this is just a crazy thought. I've kind of had this in the last like month or so, where it's like the older you're born, you kind of know more than you do. You can't speak, and as soon as your senses start coming in. You start using them more and more, the dumber you get.
Yeah.
When like, you come out first and you're like, fully blasted with divinity or whatever, and you just know shit. And then you spend the rest of your life trying to remember what you forgot.
I can subscribe to that. I think that once the filters of this world really start to be reinforced on that brand new mind, you lose.
It dumbs you down.
You lose that ability over time to be able to perceive the unknown and not to have that childlike wonderment and imagination is very powerful. And
that's the whole shit when you get down to like, I mean, if you're talking about anything with like the Golden Dawn-esque shit and all that, I mean, all the shit that formed our societies now was all hidden. The occult, it basically is all that shit. Like people just using their imagination. Why do you think all these the conspiracy thing, all realm of it, using kids for ceremonies, sacrifice?
Yeah.
You're using their pureness on top of the fact that, there's something there. There's a divinity that they need to, and then, of course, I'm just saying this because other people say, like, whether I believe this or not is neither here nor there, but
that's the rumor going around for a long time.
It's a thing. It's talked about.
Oh yeah. Well, child trafficking is a very real thing. Now,
that is a very real thing. You're very right about that.
But what the ultimate purpose is?
Pedophilia.
Yeah. What the purpose is for that is yet to be determined. But yeah, that's the rumor. Like if you believe in the Illuminati and that kind of stuff, that they want to prey on the innocent to harness their lifeblood energy. As weird as that sounds, I just talked about the first story I read was about.
The vampires,
yeah. And them acknowledging psychic vampires and them holding classes of how to defend yourself against those psychic attacks and those predators.
Well, yeah, psychic vampires, that goes to like, that's, if you read the Satanic Bible, that's
I haven't
embedded right in there. Like that's one thing Anton LaVey says is beware of psychic vampires, which is just that, people that like will psychically, and this, I mean, it's a quote unquote real thing where everyone has psychic vampires in their lives, where these people like get in your head. Like think about how big of a psychic vampire Trump is to a lot of like left wingers.
Oh, he occupies
left wingers. He eats their lunch every day because that's all they think about. He has real estate in their heads. That's just psychic vampirism.
It's not beneficial for people to dwell on something that you hate so much. It's not beneficial to constantly be worked up.
It'll twist you. It'll twist you up.
It absolutely will. It's much more beneficial to if you know you're going to be angered by something, don't go there. Now that's better, easier said than done. Especially if you like. I have a habit. I get pulled into Facebook conversations every now and again.
Oh
still.
God. Well, I do. I just don't have a Facebook account. Yeah. Just, for that simple reason where it's like, being, with my wife, yada, yada, whatever, she's one of those people that, would get up in the morning, look at Facebook, and her whole day's ruined. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's that psychic vampirism that, it's just and by any means necessary, really. Now it's just easier because you can just go through the ether, the fucking World Wide Web and shit, and just attack people psychically, get in people's heads, and do shit like that. And, you know, part of that's like the shape changing thing too, because I can completely see that, where it's like your perception of reality can change from just an instant. Like, let's say Billy Corgan was having sex. You know, there's tantric sex.
Yeah.
There's sex magic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and a lot of that has to do with the kid stuff too, in the darker side of it anyway.
Well, tantric sex is interesting in and of itself. There's a couple different varieties of it. You can have close, intimate contact with somebody without ever having penetration for hours. I mean, I think Sting has gone on about that for like when he talks about his sex life.
If you read tantric anything, just is like the hidden side of like the tantric. Like if you're a Sufi, would practice tantric stuff. Any hidden part of a religion, basically would have their tantric side, which is like, from my understanding, is like you just go into some type of deep meditation, and I guess you're using meditation. Like basically, you're altering. How do I say this? It's like taking LSD or something, you know, or mushrooms, where you're just basically altering your perception. You're altering reality. You're looking at the tree from the other side. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And I could see the shape change. Like I could see, like, you know, these specific. And he says this was the most whatever the thing he's ever. It's not significant, you know. Whatever, a big thing in his life, and it being a big thing, it's like, of course, you know, when your mind changes, it was probably, you know, I don't want to say what it was because I'm not Billy Corgan.
Yeah.
But if I, you know, it was probably something that's changed in my mind that was like, oh shit, this person changed, because you've taken LSD before, right?
Yes.
And you've kind of seen like, oh, you know, shit's kind of changing. Shit's like, people's faces are a little melty.
Yeah.
You know,
it's a different perception of reality.
Well, yeah, and all LSD does is trigger chemicals that you already have in your body.
Yeah.
So it's like if you can get into that, you can get into those kind of mindsets without taking entheogens.
You can do it through breathing exercises. You can do it. Steve, I just sent you a text. If you want to call back in on the other Skype, so I can open up this phone line in case people want to call up. And
what's the other Skype?
Did
you send me the text?
I texted it to you. Secret Skype. And
okay, I'll call back.
Call back in over there so we can maybe take some phone calls and read a few more stories.
Oh no, you're good, man. Yeah, right. I'll pop on the computer. All right.
See it. All right. There's Steve. He might call back in, and I guess we'll finish up our conversation. I don't know. It's nice to have Steve on the phone and talk about all this weird stuff. And I will open up the phone line 614-388-9109. I got to get a new phone system. I do. And I'm open to suggestions where it's got to be on the computer. I got to have a phone number, but I got to be able to add people to the group call. So if someone is already there, I got to be able to shove them into the existing call. You'd imagine Skype would have that functionality. It does not. I need to write Skype a very well thought out email without yelling or screaming. And I don't know if, I guess maybe I could call him. Let me see if I could, let me see here. Bear with me, people. There we go. Okay, added contact. There we go. Okay. All right. I do have a story up here that I will bring up on the screen. And this one is titled, "The Toy UFO Taken Off Shelves for Teaching Kids That Nazis Achieve Space Travel." This is one of those things where I don't know if it's real or not. It's so weird. But I'm going to make believe it is. This has been going around. And this is like from, I guess it can be bought on Amazon.com. The Hannibal 2 Flying Saucer. I've talked about that with the secret space program and the Nazis. But that right there up on the screen there, you can buy that toy. I actually kind of want that toy. It'd be pretty interesting. Toys and model manufacturers Revell, based in North Rhine-Westphalia, has announced that one of their products, an aircraft described as a war machine during the Nazi period, will no longer be produced. A spokesperson from Revell said on Monday that the company will stop manufacturing and distributing the product, adding that criticism of it is absolutely justified. The German Children's Protection Association, the DKSB, and the Military History Museum, the MHM, in Dresden has previously criticized the product for its inaccurate representation of history. Well, here, wait a second. Nazis had like some pretty badass weird technology out there. You know, they were way ahead of the Allies. Why do you think we gobbled up all their scientists? It wasn't just for the rocket program that they had. What about the Nazi bell? That's very real. That was documented. In its product description, the toy is called a round aircraft, and the first object in the world capable of the first object in the world capable of flying in space. That's on the toy description. The description goes on to say that the aircraft can fly up to speeds of 6,000 kilometers an hour, and it was not produced after its test phase in 1943 due to the Second World War. It emblems of the Third Reich. The product is presented as a war machine from the period of the Nazi regime, even though the aircraft like this never existed, according to the DKSB. This never existed. The Hanabu never existed. There are plans for it, and there are various accounts of Foo Fighters, weird lights in the sky. I want to jump to the fact that maybe it did exist. I believe that yeah, it did exist. I'll try to give Steve a call. Maybe he's offline now. We'll see. We will see. We will see if he hops online here. Back to this. This is interesting. Because they were saying it didn't exist at all. But we know the Nazis did have some sort of UFO program. I played many a segment on that. There's crazy amounts of documentation that the Nazis were experimenting with stuff. The fact that Revell's product description fails to mention the aircraft never existed is risky in that people who buy it might actually believe the Nazis possess superior technologies. Well, didn't they? They had rocket technology. They had buzz bombs. They had jet. They had jet propulsion on some of their experimental aircraft. They did have, by some accounts, more advanced technology than what we had. Why is that hard to believe? Hey, Steve.
Hey, I don't know what happened.
That's fine. I'm reading this. Skype, apparently. Yeah, I'm reading the story about a toy UFO taken off the shelves for teaching kids that Nazis achieved space travel. And I'm reading through this, and the German Historical Society and Military History Museum are upset that this toy is claiming that the Nazis claims they achieved space travel with experimental aircraft in World War II. And they're even going on to say that this craft didn't ever exist. But I have read documents and have heard people go on record saying, yeah, the Nazis did have a space program, and that the Hanabu 2, while a prototype, was a very real thing.
I mean, I thought it was out there that the Nazis had like a space program going on.
I thought so too. I thought it was like
it was like public knowledge. Like we just knew that. That was the whole reason why we took their scientists.
Yeah, Project Paperclip.
Yeah, because we wanted their scientists so we could go to space, or inside the Earth, whichever one.
Yeah, whether you want to go to inner Earth or outer space, we wanted the scientists, one, to jumpstart our rocket program, and two, jumpstart our intelligence agencies in their intelligence gathering mechanisms, and three, to basically get any scientists that worked on their super secret technology, like the Nazi bell or even their horrendous Nazi medical experiments, to get them involved. Because if we weren't going to take everyone we could, the Russians were going to take them.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true. And the only thing the Nazis had that we didn't have was they were using occult power. You know what I mean? They were using, Madame Blavatsky. They were using
yeah. They were
Theosophical Society. They were just using all these secret societies. They were, scientists. It was like Jack Parsons. That's why Jack Parsons, if it wasn't for Jack Parsons, we wouldn't have gone to space, because he was a Thelemite. It's these people that are using the occult to move things forward.
They were channeling through the Vril Society. Supposedly, the Vril Society was able to contact these entities, possibly 60 light years away.
Well, they had didn't they have 3 female mediums that were basically channels?
I don't know the exact number, but there was one that was basically
I think there was one. I think there was one major one.
I can look that up real fast. I think it was. Let me take up Vril Society. But there's one main woman that kind of.
She was the main conduit for some type of secret knowledge.
Maria Ostich.
Sure.
Ostich, yeah, something like that. But yeah, they channeled supposedly these technologies from the Draco civilization somewhere else. I would suspect baddies. They are some baddies, and they got the technology and were able to use the technology they had at the time to try to interpret what they were receiving. So you had some kind of heavyweight UFOs, not like super light polymers and aluminum aircraft. They probably used what they could. Some of them probably looked really ridiculous because they were using the materials that they had at the time. And I think that's why over time, starting back in the 40s up to the 50s, there's a change in UFO sightings. Some of them started off looking very clunky, then going very sleek, and then being modernized and looking very more aerodynamic, like we see with stealth fighters. Because our projects were seeded from half of it was seeded from Nazi UFO technology, the secret Nazi space program.
Yeah. And just the other word for the secret part would be the occult space program.
Yes.
That's all it was they were using occult technology to channel whatever to help them further, getting their scientific discoveries, so to speak, out there. And doing some weird shit.
Yeah, I'll read the last few paragraphs of this controversy over this toy. The company said it agrees with the historical museum, adding that it is, in fact, a legendary, extraordinary aircraft which cannot be proven in terms of its existence. Unfortunately, our product description does not adequately express that this, and we apologize for it, Revell said in a statement. A spokeswoman emphasized that Revell explicitly distanced itself from any kind of glorification of Nazi weaponry. Okay. Caller, go ahead. You're on the air with Steve and myself, Midnight Mike. Hey.
William in Tennessee, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yeah, what's up?
Mike, this is Leon. How are you?
Hey, Leon, what's going on in your world?
Hey, I'm here in my car, and I overheard, was it Joe or Steve? Who was talking with you there tonight?
Steve is on the show with me right now.
Steve.
Yeah.
Right. Steve was talking about how he believed the dude from Smashing Pumpkins. What's that guy's name?
Billy Corgan, yes.
Yeah, about the shapeshifter.
Is it Billy Corgan or Billy Corgan? Billy Corgan. Yeah, shapeshifter, yeah.
Yeah. And I do believe him too. And I was going to say too that on a number of interviews in Linda Godfrey's last book, Monsters Among Us, I think it's called, she got signed affidavits from this little church in Kentucky or somewhere. Church is no longer there, but some real down to earth people. In the front pew, a lady shapeshifted into a goat-like creature with hooves on her, and it was just real quick. And it was, she totally shapeshifted into this monster-looking thing. No clothes. It actually shapeshifted with the clothes off right into the furry goat thing, like a devil-looking kind of thing. And like I said, she got affidavits, and I really believe her. And I hear a lot of these people that skeptics that are that call in, and I know they have a right to say what they got to say. Sure. But I'll tell you what, if some of these people only knew what the government was hiding from all of us, there's so much out there in the force that people don't know about, just don't want to accept or understand. and it's really out there, and really I can understand them to a degree until they see it, okay, with their own two eyes. They're not going to believe it, you know.
Right.
But things are out there that are unimaginable, and the shape-shifting thing, like Steve said he believed him, you know, believe him. And this stuff's going on all around us.
Well, you know, like Leon, what you're saying is the fact that like a lot of this stuff's being hidden from us, from the government and stuff, and that's becoming less and less every day, and it's becoming more of a problem because, you know, when we're yelling, we want disclosure, we want to know the secrets, and when they tell it to us, when they actually give it to us, and I think this Billy Corgan and Tom DeLonge stuff is part of that. They're kind of like pushing, nudging us towards like what's going on, and then it's just polarizing us. It's just, and I think that's the whole idea behind it. It's like the more disclosure we get, the worse it is. It's better. Because it's just stuff that we already knew, and then all of a sudden, like, you know, especially with the Tom DeLonge stuff, when he starts talking about, like, you know, hey, there's, you know, aliens out there, and people are like, nah, fuck it, who cares? Like, you know, I think a lot of the people are like, it's having someone like him say that instead of like an actual government official say it is, you know, you're lessening it.
You corrected me the last time I called. I said the government like I did the last time, and you said more like the powers that be or whatever. Yeah. It's really not the government per se.
Yeah,
it's true.
It's whoever happens to be running the show behind the scenes at the time. I think Steve's right. Yeah, there's this weird form of disclosure going on with more people talking about this stuff, but you're right. I don't think people care. It is going to be polarizing. We don't know how much of what Tom DeLonge is saying is actual truth. No one really knows. Maybe someone in the special access programs, but I think some of it's true.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like some of it kind of has to be true, you know. And it's just the thing where it's like when we get this disclosure, then we start wondering what truth actually means. I was so this guy Gary Lackman used to be the bass player from Blondie and stuff. He writes a lot of books about like occult stuff, and he had just written a book about the Trump administration, basically. And he mentions a man, the Russian Rasputin right now, which is Alexander Dugin. And I started looking some of his stuff up because he's really shifting the truth around. He's having this thing where like, and it's a weird thing when you look at it, like how Russia has kind of like, you know, push themselves into our lives without us really knowing about it. And they're kind of making up truth. So the problem is like, even if this disclosure happens, there's a problem with what truth actually is. You know, truth is just getting made up at this point. And you know, having Trump around is just not making it any worse. You know, we have and that's the thing. It's like we have someone in office. He's in the White House who prior to that was a reality television star, and that says, and I think that speaks volumes because it's like, what has reality become? You know, reality is not really that real anymore,
and it only makes common sense.
Yeah, you know, it's actually, if there was to be some sort of mass UFO flap or some kind of mass disclosure, it is the perfect time for them to release it under Trump's watch. Because what can you believe? It'd be total chaos. And I think people would, like, I would be very skeptical if there would be a large UFO sighting now and the government would come out and say, yes, there is some sort of extraterrestrial fleet up there. We don't know exactly. I'd be very skeptical of any official story concerning that kind of information that would come out right now.
Didn't they actually come out with like months ago, like an official, like, and it was kind of like really under the radar. They came out with something.
December 16, 2016, the New York Times printed something, but like it wasn't really a disclosure, and the gun camera
No, I think about a couple months ago they actually came out and said something, right?
At all.
I mean, yeah, that's soft disclosure. If the New York Times is running it's soft disclosure, and the Navy came out and had some, you know, FLIR imagery they gave, and it was like
and then Tom DeLonge, and you know, it's the process. Yeah, have a rock star come out and say, like, you know, honestly, that's the thing too, because rock stars have been like, they've been using these people for years. I hate to, you know, I'm gonna get on board and say that kind of shit though, but they quote unquote they have been using these people quote unquote for so long to push agendas into, like, I mean, now I'm getting really into conspiracy bullshit, but then
you were really perceptive in saying that this Trump administration would be the perfect time to come out with this stuff, because it would be so many layers of belief and disbelief and information and disinformation that guy's the perfect guy. And, who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe it will.
Yeah, in my
dude. Honestly, I think it will, because why wouldn't it? Why wouldn't it happen when we're almost on a brink of some type of ideological civil war? I mean, basically, we are at an ideological civil war where if like people are too worried about what names they're being called, making sure that you're getting correct pronouns to be like, if you're like, hey, aliens just came down, people are like, you know what, but I still want to be called the correct pronoun. You know what I mean? Everything's so back and forth right now. Like it's a huge distraction. It's a huge distraction for something big. There's a reason why there's this huge break between the left and the right now. It's for something to come straight down the middle. Yeah, it's for something the shield is down. This for something to come straight down the middle.
They've been orchestrating it for years and years.
Oh yeah. And if you think that this wasn't like the people that run our lives are not stupid.
Yeah.
They're not
That's
stupid.
for sure. That's for sure.
Hey, you got anything else? Because I got to get out of here real soon, pal.
Hey, no problem. Me too, man. It was nice talking to you and Steve. Take care.
All right. Have a good night. Bye.
Okay, thank you for your call.
Yeah, I'm going to play the outro music here, Steve.
Oh, yeah. Go for it, dude.
Yeah. I'm going to do an hour show on Mondays. But, hey, thanks for calling in, man.
Hey, no problem, dude. Thanks for having me. It was a good talk.
Yeah, I like these talks. I like when they
shapeshifters, man.
Yeah, shapeshifters, weird stuff.
Yeah,
I like how
this is kind of my thing. Like, if you ever talk like this, you'll probably get a call from me, because this is really my bag right now.
Yeah,
all this weird shit going on.
The Monday shows are kind of reserved for this kind of talk. They really are. Stuff. Yeah, it's just where I can get a little loosey goosey, and
cool.
Not too many current events, but yeah, all this kind of talk. So.
No, these are all current events. It's current events that aren't current yet.
You're right.
These are all things that are going to happen.
You're right. All right, man. Well,
all right. Well, it was great talking to you, Mike.
Yep. I will talk to you soon, I guess.
All right, buddy.
All right, bye. Oh, wow. One, Stephen Bradford, the original co-host of the Our Big Dumb Mouse show, calling in. Good to hear from him about these weird topics. Oh, he's always an interesting guy to talk to about this stuff. He digs into the occult side sometimes. Talk with him about chaos magic, and I'm sure he'll call back in at some point in time to delve into these topics even more. And these are strange topics. Trust me, people, I know. But it's getting to be a strange world. Maybe it always was a strange world, and I'm just kind of waking up and realizing it. See, that's probably most likely the case. Didn't get to half of what I wanted to talk to, but hey, we go on tangents sometimes. If you like the show and want to interact with us, you want to join the Slack chat, give an email to ourbigdumbmouth@gmail.com. Go to obdmpod.com and you can subscribe to the podcast for free. Put out 3 hours a week. Some fun shows about current events, conspiracies, and paranormal. And if you like the night talk, you can get the audio only for $3 a month. If you want the source content, I have like a bunch of other audio up there for $5 a month, and there's different levels of donation. We need your support because, as Joe mentioned when he came and did the in-studio show, I got a lot of expensive stuff that I'm still paying off technically. So any and all support is welcome. And you can check the links in the description to follow us on social media and to interact with us. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel, give us a like, and share the content. And please comment if you get a chance to on the YouTube. Thanks, everyone, and I will talk to you on Wednesday. Aha. Goodbye.